Alright. I think I'll just start here. I mean, why not? Another week, another book review. So, this is the book I read about a week ago, but I'm making the review a little bit late. So, there might be a little bit of stuff that I kind of forget. I'll try my best to make sure I remember everything. But this book review is, I totally forgot the author's name again. I think it was Katherine, or maybe I just made that name up. But the book is California Burning. It's pretty much a history of PG&E and a kind of recollection and historical accounting of how they ended up in the situation that they did with all the wildfires, the pipeline explosions, the bankruptcies that PG&E has undergone. And I do gotta say, this book is wild. I think a lot of people in California know that PG&E is mismanaged and they've messed up a lot of things, but I would be surprised if people knew just how much they did mess up. So I guess I'll give a little bit of a summary of the book, but this book kind of starts from, it does one of those things where it starts in the middle of a story and then it goes in the past. I know there's a specific term used for that, but I don't know why that car is all the way past the intersection line. It's kind of odd, but it starts at the wildfire in Paradise. And then it goes all the way back to the beginning of PG&E. And I didn't even know PG&E is a company that was kind of founded in the 19th century, sometime in the 1800s. It was this kind of novel idea back when electricity was something that was newly discovered and just starting to be implemented or provided to first businesses and then like regular people like you and me. But it started like that, and then as they kind of grew and expanded and they merged with another company, I think Great Electric or something like that. It talks about like the history of the founders and kind of how it was set up. Really interesting stuff. The thing that I found most entertaining is that apparently back then, if you wanted to stake claim on a property, you had to stick a note to something within the property, like a note with the date, and whoever was pretty much first there with the date, whoever had the earliest date, or the notice was found first, they'd basically get to have claim to that land. So PG&E and Great Electric, they were competitors at the beginning, so they were trying to find or secure property. I think it's going to turn green soon. Ooh, I did want to go straight, but I guess we'll go left. I'm going to try to keep the speed kind of a little bit lower, probably below the speed limit, just so the wind noise isn't too crazy. But they were competitors, and then they merged at some point, I think in the early 20th century, like the early 1900s, when the leadership of both companies kind of were phased out. They just got too old. They handed the reins over to some other people, and they decided it was a better idea to merge the two companies. I really hope it is Great Electric, otherwise I'm going to look kind of like an idiot in this segment. But they merged, and then PG&E kind of went on their first big expansion. So they started building a bunch of like towers and sending electricity and building pipelines. Like most of the stuff that they built was between 1920 and 1950. But then after they started building all of this stuff, when it came time to maintain the equipment, maintain the towers, the electric lines, their equipment, gas pipelines, they built a bunch of stuff, and then they pretty much neglected straight up to maintain the stuff because of how PG&E is set up as a business. So PG&E, like any other publicly traded companies, they have shareholders that invest in the company. And a lot of the incentives for PG&E was not to maintain the equipment that they have or even build new equipment or update their technology. a lot of the incentive was to pay dividends to shareholders, which to me seems like the fundamental mess up of how PG&E is structured as a company. Just the fact that they're a public utility that delivers pretty much essential municipalities to people, electricity and gas, specific gas and electric, which is 100% necessary, especially for people who rely on gas or electricity for maintaining their health. Like some people are like ventilators or respirators, or they need heat because maybe they're old or they have some kind of malady. But because they answer to shareholders, there's very little incentive. I think even still today, the author kind of published the book, I think in like 2021 or 2022. The last couple of chapters were COVID era, so I think up to 2022. But even until today, they still have to answer to shareholders. So there's very little incentive to maintain their equipment. So it's just like a huge mess. And that's kind of the crux of the problem. The fact that they don't have to, there's no incentive to invest in the safety or the maintaining stuff. And they've had like kind of like phases here and there. There was a big phase called the business transformation. It was something transformation, where the company went through huge changes. They've had people come and go that have restructured the company to update technologies like the gas pipelines. But the root of the problem is just how the company is set up, and it was really shocking. The thing I want to focus most on this video about this book is recapturing the fire in Paradise and then the San Bruno gas explosions. And I kind of knew about the San Bruno explosion as like a thing, but I think I was just too young to remember much about it. Paradise Fire, I do remember a little bit more clearly. I was in high school, and I remember it was a big thing when I was in high school. And it was like one of the biggest, maybe at the time, the biggest wildfire in California history. But those were the two big stories. The PG&E underwent basically criminal proceedings, and they were charged in the book. I believe the author said the largest corporate crime of all time, like a bunch of counts of just like neglect and manslaughter and stuff like that. And the book did go into what I thought was really interesting, like how criminal proceedings in a court work for a corporation, because a corporation is technically a person, but it's not really a person at the same time, because it's made up of a bunch of people, right? So like a corporation has, like, you take PG&E and it has like, a couple thousand employees, and sure, you can charge the actual corporation with the crime, but like at what point are you able to charge like a specific person in the corporation with like, oh, you're the guy who made these decisions that led to these deaths? And it's very complicated, and it really makes me think, should corporations even be classified as people? Is that something that's appropriate or something that should be done? But that's like a topic for people smarter than you and I and more educated than you and I as to the ethics and morality of that. But they were charged with pretty much like, I think, second-degree manslaughter charges, a bunch of other stuff. I can't remember the specifics, but like a huge thing. The San Bruno gas explosion was due to when they were building out their gas pipelines throughout California, the company made the decision to use a cheaper welding material that at the time they thought was like cost efficient, and it worked just as good as like the standard welding material. But they eventually later found out that it didn't, like, it just isn't able to stand up to like the same pressures and isn't able to stand up to the test of time. I was shocked to see that like over half of PG&E's material was built between 1920 and 1950, which I thought was wild. I think like 60% of it is built between 1920 and 1950. So a lot of it is like is coming up on the 100, if it hasn't hit the 100-year mark, is coming up on the 100-year mark. And the book leaves it really ambiguous as to whether PG&E is like actually going to do anything about it, or if they're just going to keep on making the same mistakes. It seems like the author was implying that they'd keep on making the same mistakes. Like the last chapter mentioned a new CEO coming in, and the CEO just inherited a huge mess, and I'm sure the CEO now is different from who it was during that COVID time when the PG&E CEO was first put up as CEO. But like stuff like that, and just poor safety standards, if really any safety standards, such as with the electric towers, PG&E is supposed to, like when they maintain these electric towers, they're supposed to, let me make sure I don't get into an accident here. But they're supposed to, when they examine the towers, the best way to do it is to have people like climb up on the towers and inspect everything up close, like the engineers or whoever's taking a look. Climb up the tower, take a look, and actually see with their own eyes how the hooks, how the towers, the infrastructure is holding up. But due to like a bunch of budget cuts, and this is like the big thing, I was talking about the incentives, there was pretty much no monetary incentives to increase funding for safety, which is the other fundamental mistake that PG&E as a company has made. So there's a big incentive to invest in new infrastructure. So that's why they like kept on expanding, building new towers, new pipelines. But when it came time to like actually maintaining the infrastructure, doing inspections, repairs, checking that everything is holding up to the test of time in harsh weather conditions such as the Diablo winds and just the rain and storms, no monetary incentive. So they just kept on cutting the budget for safety to the point where when they were looking at the towers, they basically didn't even climb the towers at all. The second most appropriate method to inspect towers is using a helicopter, and in the helicopter actually taking a look. But as of now, I don't know as of now, but as of like the book's end, it would take, the author said, to do a proper inspection, it would take like 2 or 3 days to do one tower. But because of the budget cuts, the safety engineers had to do multiple towers in one day. So like 3 towers in one day. And the author basically said it wasn't even an inspection, it was more of a flyby, according to one of these safety engineers that she interviewed. So they just fly by the 3 towers. And they also increased the timeline requirement for how often they have to inspect towers. So like they should be inspecting towers like every, I don't remember, like 5 or 10 years. I think it was every 5 years. Like super detailed inspections, like inspect, I think 20% of towers every 5 years, so that towers were like being regularly inspected at least once every 20 or 25 years. But they expanded the timeline to like you only have to inspect like 10% of towers like every 10 years or something. So it's like instead of a tower getting inspected and going through a thorough inspection every once every 20 years or 25 years, it was like once every 50 years, and it was a shitty inspection, like a flyby. They weren't even looking at the hooks or the lines or like any branches near the trees, because a lot of these lines were like going through like forests in California, going through forests, across rivers, like trees grow close to them, and they were just like ignoring it. So like one of the fires was caused by the Paradise Fire was caused by a faulty hook that had gone like super rusted over time, and the inspection basically missed this rusted hook. The hook degraded, and then one of the high voltage lines went down and caused the fire. It spread super quick, and it wiped out the entire city of Paradise pretty much. A lot of people died in that fire, unfortunately. But that's one example. Another example was like branches growing too close to the trees. So the branch would like go closer and closer, and then it'd ignite on fire, or like when there were like high winds or weather events, it would somehow down the line, those are just like two examples I can remember, but that one was a big one. I mentioned the welding issues with the San Bruno explosion, the gas pipeline infrastructure having to pour weld. So just like the whole company is just from like bottom to top, I should say from top to bottom, because it was due to a lot of budget cuts. Like a lot of the safety engineers and members of the team were very unhappy with the budget cuts, but they work with what they can, right? If somebody slashes your budget, like if you need like a $10 billion budget and they only approve like $6 billion, I mean, what are you going to do? So it's not, from what I interpreted, it's not the fault of the actual people on the ground, but just the whole incentive structure, how the company is designed, answering to shareholders, just a huge mess. The other crazy thing is, so multiple mayors in California, like the two big events were the San Francisco mayor tried to buy out PG&E to set up their own city municipality with electricity and gas, and pretty much PG&E said, no, PG&E is not for sale. So it's literally impossible. Like, and PG&E has been through 2 bankruptcy proceedings. It's like it has to pay out a bunch of money to the survivors of the fires, survivors of the explosion, because they were pretty much convicted to be at fault of the explosions and the fires, and it's literally impossible to make PG&E basically sell out. That was the other thing I found, like, honestly batshit crazy. Let me squeeze up in here. But that was crazy. Like, and the other instance was the I think it started with the San Jose mayor, but it gained a lot of traction with mayors of other cities. A bunch of cities in California like banded together, and they tried to buy out. They tried to buy out PG&E because like they were causing all these issues, and there's a bunch of other mismanagement discussed in the book, like the rolling blackouts, loss of power due to electric grid overload, staying in the past with new technology compared to other municipalities in other parts of America, like other electric or gas companies. The rolling blackouts was like another big one, but it's just like, what was I talking about? Or what was I trying to say? But yeah, I mean, they pretty much told those mayors too, like, PG&E is not for sale. Nuh-uh, like, we're not going to sell to you. This is the thing that really upset me, that Governor Newsom, our current governor in California, what is this car doing? He had the opportunity to transform PG&E from a publicly traded company into, I don't remember the exact name, but basically a company that didn't have shareholders. And that was managed by the state, and any money, any revenue or profit that they would generate, they would be able to put it back into the company and invest it into like safety, infrastructure updates, inspections, like building new lines and maintaining old ones. But and they were really close to doing that, but for whatever reason, Newsom shot it down and stuck with the status quo when it was really close to becoming a possibility. So that was really shitty. But it's just like, it started off good, and it started off providing an essential service, but at some point, it makes you wonder, how much can a company mess up and how much can they get away with? They pretty much, they've been convicted of killing people and ruining a lot of people's lives. A lot of people lost their homes, all their belongings, furniture, pets, and it makes you wonder, like, they've pretty much gone away with it. I mean, they've just had a revolving suite of executives, and every time like an executive team messes up or a CEO messes up and makes the wrong decision, they get a golden parachute. They get, tens of millions of dollars, and they like step down or retire, or they're forced out. Meanwhile, all the people that they ruin the lives of, their lives are still ruined. I mean, and this is the other thing with the increasing PG&E bills. I learned that, the reason our bills in California are increasing if you're under PG&E is because PG&E is legally allowed to increase our prices to pay for their mistakes. So, like I mentioned with the Paradise Fire, they were charged with pretty much killing all those people, and they have to do this big payout to the people, and because they went to the bankruptcy proceedings, they didn't have enough money to do a proper payout. So not only are they paying those people way less money than they deserve, because all like the shareholders, investors, the venture capitalists, they were involved in the bankruptcy proceedings in court, and they got their cut. But because PG&E just straight up did not have enough money, they're allowed to increase the prices of customers to cover for their mistakes, which honestly might be the wildest thing that I learned in that book. Like, they can kill people, they're forced to do a payout, and they use all their customers' monies to cover their assets. It's really as simple as that. I know Newsom's term is up, I think end of this year. I think this year, I looked it up, but I'm going to be looking to, one of the things that's going to influence my vote for the next election is what they're going to do about PG&E. Because it's a disaster waiting to happen. It's another wildfire waiting to happen. It's another gas line explosion waiting to happen. It's, I totally forgot the library's closed. It's another disaster waiting to happen. And it's a ticking time bomb. And it really makes me wonder, like, how many people are they allowed to kill and get away with? And it really is as simple as that, right? The fact that, like, all our governors and politicians and leaders, and it's not like they haven't tried, but maybe it's time for, like, them to be forced to sell the company or restructure the company a way where they aren't answering to shareholders and investors. It's just like, I don't know. And now the book kind of stopped at that court proceeding and how the bankruptcy proceedings and the payout for the wildfire victims happened. But if there were like another couple of chapters, it would be talking about now what's going on with the data centers, the increasing price of utilities, because all these data centers with a bunch of like GPUs and AI stuff, how the costs in those centers are being passed on to consumers, like you, if you live in California, and me, how that's kind of affecting the whole infrastructure. Like this weekend, they're doing rolling blackouts in San Francisco because the data centers are overwhelming the electric grid. And there's just like not enough power to give to all the residents of San Francisco, so they're cutting off the power of some of the residents for, I think, 12 hours is what they're planning. But it's just like another example of corporate priorities being put over consumers and customers and like regular citizens. So it just makes you wonder, how is the company going to change going forward? Are things going to get better? And I know these electric bills are really like killing a lot of Americans. The data centers are just absolutely nuking the wallets of some people for no reason. If the corporations want to increase their electric use by building these big data centers for AI or for new tech stuff, they should be on the hook for the bill. And I know those data centers use a lot of water. They should be on the hook for water and the electricity, but they're not. So hopefully something changes. It seems like our federal administration is going to be useless handling that, but maybe California government or in other states, these state governments can kind of handle that. But I mean, there's just like so much stuff going on right now. It's hard to, I wouldn't be surprised if something like that is put way lower on the priority list because of what's going on with ICE. The ICE stuff is higher priority, right? So that's got to be dealt with first. But I'll kind of end the video here. I know I gave a little bit of the rant at the end, especially about the data centers, and because that's like the big issue going on right now, and the big question as to, okay, what are we going to do? What are our leaders in government going to do? But I'll end the video here. I think this is a good ending point.